everybody. Welcome to Jennifer's Open Book, where we don't believe in filters. Today, we're going to be talking about something that is common amongst blind people and visually impaired people. It's called social isolation. But before I get into that, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share this video, leave me comments. If you want to leave comments anonymously, you can inbox me on Facebook. I am under Jennifer Janelle, JINNERFER, JINNELLE, and I will answer your messages back. Also, if there's a subject that you would like for me to touch on in the future, just let me know and I'll make sure that I get that up there for you. So, social isolation. This comes with being blind and visually impaired. A lot of times we feel like we are stuck in our own little box, especially when we're in places, unfamiliar places, or in crowded places. We can't move around the way that we would like to move around, and it makes us feel isolated even in a crowded room. A lot of times people, if we're around a lot of sighted people, they're pretty much doing them, and sometimes it feels like people don't see us, like they forgot that we were even there until we speak or something. And then sometimes they do forget that we're there, and then we speak and it's almost like, oh wow, you are sitting there. So it makes us feel like we're invisible, like we're the ones who are blind, but the people around us can't see us for some reason. This is something that I am still dealing with, and I imagine that it's something that we have to deal with. We're going to have to deal with for the rest of our lives. What's strange about it is that I can feel like this around my family, and they've known me all of my life, but sometimes they get so caught up in what they're doing that, they kind of, it seems like they forget that I'm there. And I'm going to give you a couple of tips on how to deal with it, or I'm going to tell you how I deal with social isolation. If I am in a crowded place and if people are talking around me, I listen in on their conversations. And if they are talking about something that I'm interested in or that I might have some insight into, I will insert myself into their conversation gently, though. I don't just like take over their conversations, but I will, insert myself into their conversations. And once you make a statement, you can get a feel as to whether or not they want to include you. If they want to include you, they'll include you. If not, there's that awkward silence, and at that point you kind of just like bow out of the conversation. Also in those cases, because I have been in places where I was sitting at a table with people that I didn't know, and they weren't talking about anything that I really wanted. Their conversation wasn't anything that I wanted to get involved in. So I keep my earbuds with me, and I do this because I have to cope with this. I'm not trying to take myself out of the party or out of wherever I am. However, if I'm just sitting there, I get bored, and me being bored is not a good thing. I get depressed and everything. So I keep my phone and my earbuds with me all the time. And I will, Audible is my best friend. I love Audible. So I'll listen to a book. Or I'll play a game. If there's music where I am, I'll enjoy the music. I'll just sit there and try to enjoy the music until I hear a familiar voice near me. And when I do hear that familiar voice, I might call out to them and, say, hey, can you take me to walk around this room, or, let's go for a walk or something. So those are ways that I deal with those situations. It doesn't do to sit there and start like pitying yourself and everything, because people are not going to stop enjoying themselves around you, and you're not doing anything but making yourself more miserable. So you have to find a way to cope with that situation. Um, Girls kind of got it easy in this situation because we keep purses on us. So it's good for us to keep something in our purse to keep us occupied. Men, I would just advise you to keep your phone with you. Keep your phone with you, and get a Bluetooth, get some earbuds, just in case you end up in a situation like that. Um, Also, an issue is us not being able to move the way that we want to. Like if we're at home, we can't just jump up and jump in our car and just go wherever we want to go. And that also makes us feel isolated socially. So we can't like go out to the club by ourselves and feel comfortable anyway, because I know a few people who will go to the club and they're okay with it. And that's gonna bring me to my next tip. When you want to do something, you have to come out of your shell. You're responsible for yourself. So you have to come out of your shell. You have to face your fears, because it's very scary to go out alone when you can't see. People around you can't be trusted. You don't know strangers and everything. So it's good to pick certain places to go to, but you have to go. You have to get out. Um, I wanted to go see Phantom of the Opera at the Fox Theater in St. Louis. And I absolutely love Phantom of the Opera, and I've always wanted to go see it live. And I got the opportunity to. So I called a couple of people and asked them if they wanted to go with me, and they were kind of like, I don't know, I don't really want to go, or we'll see. I didn't have time for we'll see. I wanted to buy my tickets the minute they went on sale, because I mean, this is the Phantom of the Opera, and I could just see them selling out, which they did. A few nights they sold out. So I went and bought my ticket. I I had my father actually take me up to the theater so that he can help me pick out my seats, and he had no idea about the seats. So I had the people who were selling the tickets help me pick out my seats, and I had great seats. I was on the third row, um, and it was a great experience to go and do that on my own. The reason why I was able to do it and be semi comfortable, and I say semi comfortable because I was a little nervous. This was my first time going someplace like this alone. Um, I called ahead, and I would advise you to do that. My brother told me anywhere that you go, you should call ahead, because they want you to come. They want your money. So you call ahead and you let them know, I'm visually impaired. I'm coming into your establishment. I'm going to need for someone to meet me at the door, or someone to like take me here and there around. Can you accommodate me? If so, I'll be there. If you can't accommodate me, I'll find someone, another place that will. And it's okay to talk to these places like that. They want you to come, and they're going to accommodate you. If they don't accommodate you, you find someplace else that will. And somebody's going to accommodate you. So I called ahead and I let them know that I was coming in and I was coming alone. I was blind. I had a white cane. And I was coming to see Phantom of the Opera. So I was going to need someone to meet me at the door and take me to my seat. So when I got there, there was someone outside who was kind of getting the lines in order, because this was the Phantom of the Opera. They were packed, and the lines were outside wrapped around the building. And he saw me pull up, and he got on his radio and called for an escort. And this lady came and she walked me in. She helped me, with my tickets. She offered to take me to the concession stands. She took me to my seat and she said, I'll be back during intermission to see if you need to go to the bathroom or anything like that. Now, we also have this thing where we feel like people will forget about us, and that also comes with social isolation. So I enjoyed this play thoroughly, but I was not expecting for her to actually come back during intermission, and I was a little bit worried about getting out of the theater. If push came to shove, I would have asked the person who was sitting next to me if they could help me out. But this lady was like very she did what she said she was gonna do. She came back during intermission, and she came back once the play was over, and she walked me to the bathroom, walked me out to the door. I got my ride home. And after I did that one thing, it took me so long to do that. I was like 36, 37. So it took me that long to do something like that on my own. And once I did it, I felt confident to do things like that on my own. And now I will go to the movies by myself. I will go out to eat by myself. Those are the things that I like to do. Um, I I won't. I'm not a club bar person, so I don't do things like that. But I do know some people. They go out in groups. Some visually impaired and blind people. They go out in groups to a club, a certain club, and they go almost every Saturday. So these people know them when they're coming in because they do this almost every Saturday. So they all meet up at this same spot, and they have a live band, and they drink and dance, and sometimes they go play the slot machines and stuff like that. So again, we have to step outside of our shell and not expect for people to pull us out or bring us out. It's something that we need to work on ourselves. We have to face our fears and not let other people, I always say, don't let other people's fears become your fears, because we have friends and family that will say, oh, I don't think that you should do that. I don't want you to get hurt. And then it gets us to thinking like, oh, we're going to get hurt. My mother, she told me yesterday that she's always scared when I take an Uber. When I take an Uber, I text her the information, and there's a link on Uber. When you send a text message to a friend or family member, they can follow the car through that link. I also make sure that I don't just jump in anyone's car. When the Uber drivers pull up, and I make sure that I put a note once I reserve my ride that I am blind and be looking out for a cane and a kid, because I'm usually traveling with my daughter. When they pull up, they'll say, hey, Jennifer, are you waiting on Uber? Yeah, are you? Or they'll say, hi, are you Jennifer? Or hi, are you waiting on an Uber? And I'll say, yes, what's your name? And I check their name against the Uber app. So I make sure that I'm getting in the right car. And once I get in the car, I send my mom that text message. Because if anything happens to me and my daughter in this car, someone needs to know where I was and who I was with. So take those type of precautions too. I know we're all adults. We don't want to have to check in with, parents and siblings and spouses and everything. However, even just the way that the world is, sighted people need to do the same thing. People who don't have a handicap or visually impairment, they need to take those precautions too. I know someone who, whenever she goes any place with somebody unfamiliar, like when she goes out on dates, she takes the picture of their license plate, a picture of them and their driver's license, and she sends it to her sisters. And some people might think that that's overkill, but if you watch the news, there are a lot of just bad people in the world, and you don't want to end up in a bad situation. And if something does happen to you, you want someone to know where you were and who you were with last. So, like I said, just take those precautions. Let somebody know where you're going. If you don't let them know when you get there, at least let them know when you get home, because you do have people who love you and they worry about you and they want to make sure that you're okay. They don't want you to stay locked up at home all the time, but they want you to be safe. And sometimes they feel like being safe is you being at home all the time, but you can't do that. We have to be social. Another thing that you can do to help with social isolation is join some groups, some visually impaired groups and associations. I found that once I joined the NFB and I started going to the meetings and everything, that I was less awkward socially. I was able to socialize with people who have the same issues that I have. And you're not feeling isolated in those meetings because everybody's walking around speaking to each other and talking to each other. No one's just like sitting in one place. And if you bump into somebody in those settings, it's okay. We're all blind. You either say excuse me, or in my case, I say excuse me, and if someone bumps into me, I give them a hug. Because I do that. Oh, we're all blind, and if you're gonna be bumping into me, you're gonna have to give me a hug. So, I do that to make it less awkward, and so that people don't feel bad about bumping into me. We're all blind, and we're all visually impaired in that setting. So it's okay. It's fine. And once you start getting comfortable around other blind and visually impaired people, it helps you to be more comfortable with yourself around sighted people or anyone else that you're around. I'm usually, well, I used to be antisocial. And it was because I didn't know how to act around people. I didn't know how to be myself around other people. And I'm going to tell you more about that another time. I was always told that I was too this, too that. And so I kind of just stopped being, and I lost myself, and I had no idea who I was. So I was awkward around other people. And then I started to do things on my own without other people. And I started going to the NFB meetings. And now I'm me. And I don't allow people to tell me that I'm too much of anything. Because I'm me. You either take me or you leave me. So try to get into some of those settings if you can, if you have them in your area. I don't know many places in the States that does not have a National Federation for the Blind or a Lighthouse for the Blind, a blind center, a sight center. They have different types of places that you can go to socialize with other blind and visually impaired people, and they go out on trips. We here where I am, in the summertime, we go to the theater, they go to stores, they do different things. They'll go sailing. Some places have archery, beat ball, they have sports and everything. So try to get involved in those type of things. And like I said, it'll help you to get comfortable with yourself and get comfortable with people, so that when you are not in that setting, when you're around other people who are sighted, you'll be okay with being you. And it also gives you something to talk about. You can start a conversation when you're sitting at that table at a party and you feel like you're being ignored. You can, announce to the table, hey, my beatball team won our game this past weekend. And that's a conversation starter. So just to help us get out of that social isolation, those are some tips for you. I hope that helped you. It's what helps me. And like I said, I still get in those situations and I can still get down about it. It's okay to get down about it, but it's not okay to stay down about it. You have to do something about that. You can't let things just break you down and leave you there. Being blind, losing your sight, is not the end of your life. It's the beginning of a new life. So now you have to do things differently, but you can still do things. So I hope that this video helped someone. Until next time, I said what I said. I meant what I said. I love you.
0.0 seconds.